You don't have to be in Canada to start your nursing process. You can be anywhere in the world. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, you're welcome. If you're an OD, thank you so much for coming back. My name is Nneka Izanya and I upload immigration, nursing and lifestyle content right here on my channel. You're welcome and I hope you enjoyed today's video. So as you can tell from the title of today's video, I'm going to be talking to you guys on how I journeyed to become a registered or licensed nurse here in Canada as an internationally educated nurse. And I posted a video about almost a month ago and it just spoke about how to become a registered or licensed nurse here in Canada without having a science background or nursing degree. If you haven't seen that video and it's something you're interested in watching, I'm going to leave a link right here so you can catch up and gain some more knowledge on how to start your journey. So in the comment section of that video, I got so many requests to talk about my own experience on how I became a registered practical nurse here in Canada, and that's what today's video is going to be about. Just like I do with every of my videos, I'm going to be making this video be organized and I'm going to be sectioning it into 7 different parts. The first part is going to be a bit of a background and my personal experience with my nursing journey. The second part is going to be the requirements you would need to apply. The third part is going to be the application process. The fourth part is going to be the documents you would need to apply. The fifth part is going to be applying to a regulatory body. The sixth part is going to be the fees. How much did I spend for my entire process? While the seventh part is going to be the lessons I learned during my journey. This part is the most important part, so make sure you watch to the very end. So a bit of background about my nursing journey and how I started, personal experience and all of that. If you're new to my channel, you might not know this, but I have a bachelor's degree in nursing and I got my degree in Ukraine. My degree lasted for 4 years, and when I was done my nursing degree, I came directly into Canada. My nursing degree in Ukraine ended June 26th of 2018 and I came to Canada December 25th of 2018. So that's roughly around 6 months. And so due to this, I did not have any sort of nursing work experience and I did not also get my registration in any country because I did not go back to Nigeria, and also I did not get my registration in Ukraine before I left. So that's just a bit of background about my nursing journey. The second part of this video is going to be the requirements, who is actually eligible to become a registered nurse or to even start this entire process. If you go to the NNAS website, I'll be explaining what NNAS is later on in today's video. If you go to their website, you see that there are only 2 requirements you need to have. The first is you have completed a post-secondary nursing education outside of Canada, either in a university or in a college, and you never worked as a licensed nurse in Canada in the profession to which you are applying into. So those are the only 2 requirements you need to actually have before you can start this process. So now that you know the requirements and hopefully you are eligible to start this process, the first step is to create an online application with NNAS. NNAS means National Nursing Assessment Service. The role of NNAS is to collect, verify, and store your document needed by the Canadian nursing body and send your reports to the regulatory body you apply to. If you want to start your application as an international educated or internationally trained nurse here in Canada, you have to go through NNAS. NNAS is the very first organization you have to go through before you can start this entire process. Okay, I know I use some certain terms here that you might not understand. I'll try to explain. So regulatory body, every province here in Canada has its own regulatory body for nurses. So for example, me being a registered nurse here in Ontario, the regulatory body that governs registered nurses here in Ontario is called CNO, which is the Canadian Nurses of Ontario, and that for British Columbia is called British Columbia College of Nurses and Midwives. That of Alberta is called College of Registered Nurses of Alberta. That of Manitoba is called College of Registered Nurses of Manitoba. So you get what I mean, right? So after NNAS collects, verifies, and stores your document, they send a report, which is known an advisory report, that includes an evaluation of your nursing education and compares it to your current Canadian nursing requirements to make sure that your curriculum and your past nursing studies actually meets the Canadian nursing standard. Okay, after creating an online account with NNAS, the next step now is to submit the documents that they would require to start your process. I'd actually advise you guys to download the NNAS handbook because it explains this entire process from the very beginning to the very end. So I'll leave a link in the description box just so that you have good knowledge about NNAS and the entire process. The first document you need is 2 forms of proof of identity. When I was doing my own process, I used my Ontario driver's license and I used my international passport. But I know that there are other forms of identity you can use, like your birth certificate. You can use your marriage certificate, I think. But yeah, I'll just leave a picture right here that shows you other ways you can prove your identity with NNAS. When sending your proof of identity, there are 3 things you need to know. The first thing is, do not send an original copy. The second thing you have to know is that whatever documents you use must be notarized, meaning that they must be printed by the notary, dated and stamped before you can send them to NNAS. NNAS also requires that the notary declares in a written statement that they have seen the original documents, made the copies and certified them. So in my own case, when I took my documents to the notary, what they did was that after they printed the documents, they stamped it, dated it and everything, at the back of the printing, they just made like a very short note that they've seen the original documents, just exactly what NNAS said here. They just wrote it at the back and they signed it. That's just what they did. The next document you have to send is your nursing education form. This form can only be accessed on your NNAS portal. So if you haven't started your NNAS application, there's no way you can have access to this form. This form is personalized to you because on the form they've written your name, date of birth and every information you provided when you were starting your application, right? This form has 3 different parts. It has a part A, part B and part C. Part A is the only part you as the candidate is going to fill. After you fill the part A of this form, you're going to send this form to your institution where you completed your nursing degree. After the part B and part C is filled by your school, they should also include your official transcript, your diploma, course description, curriculum, every single thing that pertains to your nursing degree. All these documents plus your education form should be put into an envelope, and on that envelope it should state school's name, return address, seal and stamp, and send it directly to NNAS by mail or by courier. All right, NNAS is not going to accept any document that is not sent directly from the school. Okay, so this is very important and you should not make any sort of mistake when sending these documents. So that's all you need to know about the education form. The next document you need to send is your nursing registration form, and this form, like the education form, also has 3 different parts: the part A, part B and part C. The part A is going to be signed and filled by you, while the part B and part C is going to be signed and filled by the nursing authorities where you were licensed. Like I said earlier, I wasn't registered in Ukraine before I left. Shout out to my girl Bella. I got the information for the nursing registration body in Ukraine, which is called the Ukrainian Council of Nursing and Midwifery, right? So I got their information and I sent this form directly to them. They stamped it, filled everything, and they included some extra documents and sent it directly to NNAS. Okay, so that was how I was able to deal with this exact part. I don't know, with everything that's happening in Ukraine right now, I don't know if they are still functioning and stuff, but I'll leave their email address in the description box just in case you want to, get your registration in Ukraine as an international nursing student. You can definitely check out their contact address in the description box. So yeah, I hope it helps. The next document you need to submit to NNAS is your nursing employment form. I did not have access to this form because, like I said earlier, I did not have any work experience, so I omitted this part because I did not have anything to prove. But if in your case you have some sort of work experience in the nursing field, you would do the same thing by downloading the form, filling it up, and send it to the hospitals or organizations you've worked or you've practiced as a nurse. They fill their part and send it directly to NNAS. On the NNAS website, it states that you are only to provide employment details for the places you've worked in the past 5 years, and the current year is year 1. So if you're starting your process in 2022, they only require employment details from 2018. Anything below 2018 is not required by NNAS. But of course, if you're starting maybe in 2023, 2025, 2020, 20, 30, whatever. Just submit your work experience in the past 5 years. That's all you need. So I hope this makes sense. The next and final document that NNAS requires from you is a proof of language testing. So either English or French, because those are the two major languages here in Canada, right? If English or French isn't your first language, then you'd have to write a language testing exam. I know you can write IELTS, CELBAN, and some other ones. I'll leave them on the screen here. If your first language is English or French, you'd also need to meet some certain criteria. The first one is the main language where you live and work is English or French, and your nursing education program was in English or French. The second criteria is you can show some evidence of safe nursing practice within the last 2 years where English or French was of course used, right? So yeah, that's all the documents you need when starting your Canadian nursing registration process. So in my personal case, since I did not have any sort of work experience, I am currently doing my placement or clinicals at the hospital right now. Doing this, I can prove 2 things actually. I can prove work experience and I can also prove English proficiency, right? So those are the 2 things I can prove during my placement at the hospital. The 5th step is apply to a regulatory body. You cannot apply to a regulatory body until NNAS is done with your advisory reports, after which you'll be notified to now start your application with the regulatory body you decide to work in. So when you start your application with the regulatory body you're interested in, I'm going to be talking personally about CNO. When I started my application with CNO, there were 8 requirements that I needed to have, right? But most of these requirements were already provided by NNAS. So the only requirements I needed to complete was registration exam, jurisprudence exam, authorization to work, criminal record check, and health record check. The only thing that you would have to take time to prepare for is the registration exam, which is the main thing. But all of these other requirements are very, very minor things that you can actually do in one day, okay? But the registration exam, you need to prepare for it. So yeah, that's all you need to know about CNO and the process. The CNO process is not as difficult as the NNAS process because most of the bulk work was already done by NNAS. CNO just needs you to clarify some few things and just pass your registration exam before they can give you your license, right? So yeah, that's all you need to know about applying into your regulatory body. The next part of this video, which is the 6th part, is the fees, the amount of money I spent during this entire process. For my NNAS process, I had to pay for a main application fee and I also had to pay for a second evaluation of my nursing profession. I applied for the RPN and also the RN because I wasn't sure if I was going to be eligible for the RN because I knew, of course, I did not have any work experience. I wanted to be on the safe side to just apply for both the RPN and the RN, and I wasn't eligible for the RN, but I was eligible for the RPN, right? And I wanted my process to be done together so that I wouldn't get an advisory report for one and not apply for second one years after or months after, right? I paid for both of them. So my main application, which was the RN, $650 US. With tax, it costs $734.50 US. To apply for a second application, you wouldn't pay the whole $650 again. You would pay $220 US. Including tax, it cost me $248.60 US. So the standard fee for the NNS process, if you're applying for 2, is $983 US. So that was for my NNS process. So now let's talk about the CNO process. The CNO process was actually in Canadian dollars, not US dollars. The initial application fee for CNO was 339 Canadian dollars. My nursing registration exam for CNO cost me 395.50 Canadian dollars. Then I had to write a jurisprudence exam, which cost me 40 Canadian dollars. Then my initial registration plus my first year membership fee cost me 361.60 Canadian dollars. So in total for CNO, I spent 1,136 Canadian dollars. I also want to mention that there are some little fees and money that you'd have to pay for, like courier service, getting my documents from Ukraine. For the registration body in Ukraine, I paid $250 US, and to get my documents from my school in Ukraine, I paid about $200 US, right? So in total, I'll say I spent $3,000 US, give or take, during this entire process. So the final section of this video are the things I learned during my process. I'll be honest and say that I made so some mistakes, and I don't want you guys to make these mistakes, right? So I'm going to be telling you guys the lessons I learned during my process so you don't make them. The first thing is, you don't have to be in Canada to start your nursing process. You can be anywhere in the world. NNS doesn't require you to be in Canada to start your nursing process, and I did not know this. So it was now when I came into Canada, and I spent, I think, about a year before I started to start my nursing journey with NNS. So even if you're in Nigeria, you're in India, you're in Nepal, wherever you are, you can start your nursing process. You don't have to be in Canada to start that. The second thing I learned is give yourself about 2 years to get your license. On the NNS website, it states that their process will take you 12 months. My process with NNS took about 16 to 18 months. Some people get theirs earlier, some way later, but just give yourself enough time. And this leads to my next point. Kind of be open to a bit of setbacks, because most of the parts of your journey during this process is out of your control. And I learned that the hard way. There are some things that you don't have control over, especially when it comes to, timing, about the courier service, about waiting and all those things. You don't have control over those things, right? So be patient. Just know that setbacks are okay during this process. The next lesson I learned is there are going to be a lot of minor fees that you don't expect. Start getting ready and start putting money together and saving money towards those things, right? Just so that if unexpected fees come, you would have like a backup plan to pay them off. The next thing I learned is internships during your nursing education is not considered as work experience in the eyes of NNS. So if maybe you did an internship for like 3 months or 4 months or 6 months, or during your break when you're studying, it's not considered as work experience when you're starting your nursing journey with NNS. Please don't make that mistake, because it's going to set you back for a month. Even though it's not a month, it's to set your application back a bit. So please don't make that mistake, okay? When you're an internationally educated nurse preparing for your licensing exam here in Canada, it might feel like you're starting all over again to learn. That's okay. Don't feel like you're alone. Please give yourself ample time, especially if you're an internationally educated nurse. Things are a bit different here, right? So I give myself 6 weeks, and those 6 weeks were 6 weeks. If you give yourself ample time to study, you're definitely going to do great, okay? I felt a bit overwhelmed with the amount of information that was coming to me at once. When you feel fatigued, take that time to rest, okay? So yeah, that's all the lessons I learned during my process, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And I know you guys might have some questions, so feel free to leave them in the comment section and I'll get to them as soon as I can. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe to my YouTube channel as well, and also turn on the post notifications so that you can get notified every single time I upload a new video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye guys. Bye.